Hey everyone, and welcome to Already Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Star Trek The Next Generation Season 2, Episode 21. It's called Peak Performance. So, full spoilers for the episode, as always. And you know what's peak performance when you have both Riker and one Wesley Crusher in a team together. Nothing more peak than that.
They're coming for all the ladies.
Yes, and this is not to say that I'm making fun of Commander Riker, of course. I pointed out how opposed they are on the scales of everything. So this is essentially the real season finale, because the next one's going to be a clip show. So we'll talk about that next time.
This is the last proper one.
Yeah. So that's the last proper one. The first thing that struck me about this episode is a couple of familiar faces in the guest stars that really stuck out to me. So the alien dude who's sort of there to sort of supervise this, because the episode's about this war game simulation where some of the crew are going to go into a separate ship and they're going to have a simulated battle with the Enterprise.
I appreciate that the reason was because, well, hang on, the Borg are a thing now. We kind of should be a bit more ready than we have been.
Oh no, yeah, that reason was solid. I was going to get to that. I wanted to get to these two actors because, so this alien dude who's here to supervise this, let me just get his name since he actually has more of a thing called Rami. His name is. So this actor I recognised, and I was looking at him. I was his voices especially. I was like, oh, I know that voice. Now, he's actually been in a couple of things here or there that I've seen. He was in like Total Recall and a couple of other things. But the main thing I know him from, and I knew it as soon as I saw the name, was actually an early episode of Lois and Clark, the New Adventures of Superman. He's actually the landlord who shows Clark his apartment. Because I vividly remember him, like, sort of showing him around the apartment and, like, sort of, just sort of shrugging at how bad everything was and...
I remember that. And
he walks out and he comes back in, and Clark's decorated everything in super speed, and he's all shocked. He's like, huh? Yeah. So he doesn't catch him doing anything in super speed. He just comes back in like a minute later, and like Clark's already painted everything and cleaned it all. And
it's like, what the hell's gone on here?
So that's him. Then the other one, there's a yellow shirt in here, who's Ginger, who's one of those actors who pops up so much in so many things. Now, admittedly, most people are used to him being a bit more bald in this. This is a pre his sort of consistent look, and he got his consistent look pretty soon after this, because I'm pretty sure he looked like what I think of him as in Under Siege 1, which is like 1990. So this is only a couple of years before that. But he was on several seasons of 24. He popped up in Supergirl for a few episodes. He was General Lane on that. He popped up in, like, he's been in tons of stuff. He was on Alias. Like, he's been popping up in movies and TV shows since the 80s, basically. He's been around
for decades. Yeah.
So even though he looks probably the most youngest I've ever seen him here compared to what I used to see him at,
he feels particularly punchable in this episode.
He does. He's usually got more of a sort of stern fatherly way about him. He does in this. Here, I think the baldness suits him. I think losing that hair just added to his prestige.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah, so I wanted to mention those two because they really stuck out to me. Anyway, so so they're doing this simulation thing because the Borg are a threat now, and they feel like they should up their thing. And not only that, but the Ferengi were back in this episode eventually, so it was nice to have them back as well. So
although they were an unexpected encounter.
Yes. Romulans were mentioned, although not really there, of course, but mentioned. So yeah, there was a lot of mythology things, popping up in this episode one way or the other. So Riker's going to take this task. He's going to be the captain of this second ship, this full captain for a while, which will mean Data will be the first officer on the main ship, on the Enterprise. And he's going to select a crew. We hear later on it's about 40 people all in, who go over to this other ship.
Whoever he wants, except Data.
So he takes Worf. He comes in to ask Worf if he'll be, because Worf's got some opinions about this whole simulation, like simulated combat. What, this is dishonorable. If you can't die, then what's the point?
he has to give him this whole thing of, but you still want to win, is what it boils down to. Like, for the glory of winning.
Yeah, and that kind of convinces him. Although, notably, when he comes in to ask Worf this, Worf's working on his little ship model.
Yeah.
He had like little sticks and he was putting together a ship, and he got really upset when he snapped one. It seems like he's done a lot of that. Just to bring Superman back into this reminds me of I can't believe I'm going to reference Smallville here, but Clark once saying that he tried to learn to play guitar, but he kept snapping all the strings. I kind of feel like this is that for Worf, where he's just too aggressive with all the little delicate pieces that he just can't do.
This is like, because I think it was Geordie who had the bottle in a ship
Mm.
a while back. I wonder if he's like, oh, I like the look of that. I can do that.
Mm.
And maybe not as well.
Yeah, maybe we'll find that all of the Klingon like circuitry and all that are all much bigger, not because they have to be for performance, just because Klingons with their hands and how harsh they grab things, everything has to be sturdier and like bulkier to take it.
Stands to reason.
So, but anyway, so he gets Worf. He also asks for Wesley for some unfathomable reason.
Yeah, he's like, I think Picard's even like, why do you want Wesley? He's not going to help you that much. He's like, just experience for him.
Yeah, kind of. Even Kolrami's kind of like, oh, that's an interesting choice. I don't know about that. I mean, you can have him if you want, but I mean,
yeah, he's not gonna. I don't think even Riker expects him to help. He's just like, it'll do him some good to do something different.
Yeah, so that's kind of sets things up, and they go over to this other ship. There's a little subplot with a game they play. I want to save that to the end because that sort of goes into more of a subplot.
Sure.
But they go over to the ship, and it's like it's this old wreck. They've got it from some scrap heap. There's wires hanging from everywhere. Notably, the noise it makes when Riker goes to like talk to everyone on the ship over the comms. It's the same. It's the old original series noise. So it's just to let you know.
A nice touch.
Yeah, just to let you know it's an old ship. It's the same noises as the original Enterprise.
Yeah, none of the rest of the design is similar. They haven't like tried to recreate it in any other way. Just that noise.
And I mean Enterprise from the original show, before some smart arse tries to correct me and tell me about the original Enterprise. You know what I meant?
It was clear. The implication was there.
So, yeah, so they're doing this, and like, Wesley thinks they're screwed, and Geordi thinks they're screwed. He can maybe get like warp 1 for like 2 seconds. That's the best he can do out of what's there. Obviously, there's no real weapons on this ship because it doesn't need to be. It's all a simulation.
Mm-hmm.
It's all just about outplaying the other person. So there's a lot of build up to this. There's a lot of preparation. Wesley, and you kind of knew Wesley was up to something because he makes this whole little. He's like, "Oh, sir, I've left my science experiment on my ship on the Enterprise. It's unsupervised. I let it turned on, and it's like part of my finals. I have to go over and fix it." And Picard makes sure this is okay with the rules to let him come back on board.
So as long as he's supervised and only goes straight to do that, there's no point in stopping him.
Yeah. So that's really cool. And he goes over and he gets his thing, but instead of beaming it into space, like he tells, the actor was talking about, I will give you his name. Glenn Morshower is his name.
Yeah. I thought he was annoying in that scene with Wesley because Wesley's there like, I just need to, and he's just like, I'll just hurry up. I don't give a shit.
This is a great trick. This is to make us like Wesley more, because by next to this guy, Wesley all of a sudden doesn't seem that bad.
I know, and I'm like, what are you doing?
This is the tactic. So I wonder if he's in any more Star Trek episodes. I wonder if is this a one and done for him, or is he actually a recurring, background character for a while?
So yeah, he actively annoyed me in that. Like one scene, he's just stood there. And I'm like, you're escorting him to get rid of a thing, and you're so impatient to get back to it. You'll be back in 5 minutes. Just relax. It was frustrating. They're not showing up easily.
You know what? Control F's my friend. That's just
Control F is your friend. Yeah, always is.
Oh, he was on Voyager. For
Same
an episode.
Character?
No, guard number 1. So interestingly, he's in one more episode of the show. Although it's not it's like 1993. It's like seasons away. So
oh god,
he comes back as a different character.
Okay.
Later on, and then
he's got to be bald by that point.
And he's actually in Star Trek Generations, the first Next Gen movie. Although he's only credited as Navigator, which makes it seem like it's another new character. I mean, it's possible it's the same as the characters from the second appearance in the show. It's just they're just crediting him differently, but
yeah,
the actual title is different. So,
I guarantee you, there's a book somewhere that tells us he's the same character.
I bet maybe the first one's like his older brother, and that's how they explain it or something. I don't know. There'll be some Trek nonsense to explain all this.
There always is, isn't there?
But it was actually a trick. Wesley had some sort of device that he wants to help use for the ship, which will help them trick the Enterprise. And Worf's got a plan as well to like mess with the readings and stuff, and that'll be this whole thing. So the big plan that they have, and Picard's all excited as well. I mean, the one thing Picard has otherwise in this episode, aside from the side plot, is that he does kind of pull the alien to the side. And it's like, hey, what have you got against Riker? You keep belittling him and saying these little things about him, and
it's going to be easy, no challenge at all, and nothing to worry about.
Yeah, he's kind of he's expecting less of Riker, and so Picard's all excited though, and they get the game going, and he's like, oh, okay, right, let's go into this, and then they trick him with this Romulan, hologram essentially. The sensors, they make them think there's a Romulan and there's not, and they're like, oh, well played. Oh, I told you he was the best. I was like, oh, Data, change these numbers because they've clearly messed with our readings here. And then of course this Ferengi ship shows up, and immediately I think I was sitting going, well, the obvious trick here is that this is a real ship and Picard doesn't think it is, and then they're going to get hit. And sure enough, and it was very clear from the get-go when it started being real, because the ship actually shook when they got hit, as opposed to just simulated hit. Yeah. So that gets going, and of course this brings back Armor Shimmerman, of course, from the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer, who plays one of the Ferengi on the ship. I don't believe he's meant to be the same character as the previous Ferengi we saw. I think it's just a case of he fits the molded head stuff they've got, the makeup and the
probably
head
because
gear.
I'm pretty sure it was a mercenary before, and this time he was a merchant before. This time he's a mercenary.
Yes, and they're confused by what's happening here with these two ships, because the other ship clearly has nothing going for it, but they seem to protect it now, so it's valuable, and they're all about the value.
There must be treasure on it.
Yeah, so they have this sort of negotiation, and Riker kind of, when they call over to each other, like, hey, we can actually warp for 2 seconds. So they come up with this plan to like pretend to blow the ship up as they warp away and make the Ferengi think that they're, big and bad. And then and this is actually the other funny thing, is the other ship, the small ship that Riker and that are on, is called the USS Hathaway, which was making me laugh just because I can only think of one Hathaway, and that's Anne Hathaway. So I just kept chuckling to myself. And in fact, the best moment that our Ginger has is it's actually, it really emphasizes it as well, bizarrely. But there's a shot in the bridge, and I don't know exactly what part of the episode it is. It's either when they're in the simulation or after the Ferengi show up, so it's a serious thing that's happening. But the camera goes up from Picard, because he's standing up in the upper bit behind him, and the camera goes up to him. And it lands on him, and he says, "Bye bye Hathaway," and I'm like, so that made me laugh. But I was just like, you really emphasize that moment, right? That's no name.
This is like the second character from recent bunch of episodes where they're like, oh, this is a thing we're introducing.
Yes, but he's not.
But he's not. Yeah, like they're trying some stuff out and just decide they don't like it, and I'm glad on this one, because I don't like this guy as much as the last one.
Yeah, I wonder if it's almost a case of we'll try a bunch of different things during the season, and then whatever one we like, we'll bring back next season as a proper role. Because it's not like they've got time to like see if it worked, before they do the next episode.
Yeah, of course. So just try a handful, see what works, see what they end up liking the most, even, because they might go, yeah, okay, that was fine, but we actually like this one better. Yeah,
so that's what it is. But that scares the Ferengi off. They run away. Alien dude's like, oh, okay, I maybe underestimated Riker, blah blah blah, and that's pretty much it. I mean, I do kind of wish we spent more time with like the actual simulation with Riker on this shitty little ship, try to use it to their advantage. It didn't really amount to much in that sense, but it was mostly fun having them go over there and
it was. I think it's like 2 minutes into the exercise, the Ferengi show up and derail it. I'm like, if that had been a bit further in, and it was, we'd had a bit more of the exercise between, Picard and Riker, that would be a bit more fun, I think.
I think I wanted them to actually try and outwit each other for a while before the real threat came in.
I'm fine with the Ferengi showing up and interrupting, but just give us a little bit more time first.
No, because I liked it as well, because when they do interrupt, I mean, it was maybe a bit early into the game, but at least I like the idea that, okay, shit, like 40 crew members are on this little ship that has no defenses.
Yeah, and they think it's valuable, so what do we do?
But it gives us this interesting little mechanic of, okay, how do we deal with this? How do we save that ship? And so on and so on. So no, I like the core plot, and even the side plot I thought was generally pretty fun. This alien dude wants to play this game. Well, actually, Riker challenges him to this game, which has like these weird finger sensors put on all their fingers. It looked a little bit silly when they were sitting there with all these finger things on,
just wiggling the hands.
Yeah, but the alien dude like makes short work of him. He's like, of course, I'm like known for my strategy and my
he's like a grandmaster in this game.
Yeah, this is, I can't think of an example to compare it to, but like this is like,
well, no, it's like me challenging a chess grandmaster.
Yes. I was going to try and think of an actual name though, but like, yeah, it's like you challenging. I don't know.
You really can't think of any like sporting people.
I'm not even trying to think of a sporting person. I'm trying to think of something that's funny, like a really fat person eating burgers. But like, it doesn't matter. Anyway, right? Doesn't matter.
Sure.
So he fails, right? And Data's kind of confused by all this competition. Like, why does everyone care about this? You know, being Data, and Pulaski and Troy are trying to, you know, egg him on. Like, hey, why don't you challenge him? Like, you're not human. You don't have the living senses that we do. So you theoretically should still be able to win this, even though he's so good at it. And they want to see him, like, you know, taken down a peg or two. So they get all excited by this, and Pulaski even kind of like nominates him on his behalf.
Yeah, I feel like Pulaski is a bit of a dick in this episode, back like how she was in the first handful in regards to Data. With the way she treats him in this one, it really feels like she hasn't learned anything over the season.
It didn't feel as mean-spirited to me. It felt like, I mean, she was kind of doing it for her own reasons, but like it didn't feel like she was belittling him in the same way back at the start of the season.
Because it's a bit like, so obviously, so they have this thing and Data loses.
Honestly, like, this felt more to me like McCoy in the original series, more than Pulaski's ever felt before. I can totally see McCoy with Spock and him egging him on to do something like this and be like...
Well, no, I can with them, because that's what they were like, but
yeah.
This here, Pulaski, if like, when Data does lose, and she's like, you're infallible, this makes no sense. It's just like, you're a robot. And it kind of feels like she hasn't learned anything, that he's more than just a robot. It still just felt like it came back to that for me.
I mean, technically you're right. I just don't think the scene actually plays it that way. It doesn't. It's not actually interesting because every time that happened before, it was an intentional source of like moral conflict, or an intentional source of like, you know, it was explaining this idea to us. It was portraying this idea that she felt this way about him. I don't think anything in this episode was trying to make us, you know, feel that she was thinking of Data in any particular way. It was just it was there for the sake of the plot and the shock and the humor of it, rather than anything to do with her.
I get what you're saying, in that it feels like the intention feels like McCoy, you know, teasing Spock about emotions, right? I get where that intention's coming from. I don't think it quite landed for me, given where Pulaski's been over the season. I don't think it only quite played true for me.
Yeah, I never really even thought about it, to be honest. It was kind of being gone for me. And then the real interesting part of the episode, though, is that Data thinks there's something wrong with him because he couldn't win. So he refuses to go to the bridge, essentially, and starts doing, you know, diagnostics on himself, like, constantly, trying to figure out what's wrong. And both Troy and Pulaski go to talk to him and try to... And basically, obviously, what's wonderful about this is that it kind of appears like his ego's been hurt, and he's too ashamed to show his face. And it's kind of not what it is, but it also is at the same time. Like, he's worried about making a mistake, which is a very human thing. If you make a mistake at your job or whatever, and you then are scared to make another mistake, that's essentially what's happening here. Although, from Data's perspective, it's a very cold, hard, logical, oh, there's something wrong, there's something malfunctioning, I have to fix it.
Yeah, there's a programming error.
But ultimately, it kind of comes across in the same way. And maybe that's kind of what argues against what you were saying about Pulaski, is that she kind of recognizes that and says it doesn't matter, because when she says this to Picard says, yeah, but he doesn't have these feelings you're giving to him. Like, how does this work? And it's like, well, it doesn't matter whether it comes from, you know, human feelings or his programming. The result's the same. This is how he feels. It's the exact same result. So Picard has to go and tell him to, like, get on the bridge and leave yourself pity behind, because
man up and get on with it.
Yeah, making mistakes, actually, as he points out, it's not that you made a mistake. You didn't make a mistake and you still lost. That's just part of life. Sometimes that'll happen, and you have to accept that. So that kind of snaps him out of it. But of course, we do end the episode with a rematch where Data and the alien dude are going at it very strongly. And it's lasting a while, because this is the thing, like, Riker gets beat within seconds, Data lasts a little bit longer.
Yeah, we get told early on that two players that are evenly matched can last around 1,000 moves. Riker lost in 23.
Yeah, Data lasted longer than that, but this last time at the end, it's just like a stalemate. They're just going, you know, intensely for a long time, and eventually the alien dude just, like, rips off his sensors and says, this is an outrage, this is blasphemy, and he walks off. And they're all like, hey, you won. And he's like, well, not really. It's still a stalemate. He just, you know, left the game. And they're like, well, how did you do that? And he's like, well, he assumed that I would try to win, so I just stopped trying to win. It's essentially, he just... like,
played defensive.
kind of. It was not even defensively. Because he intentionally tried to make it a stalemate with every possibility, rather than go for something that would lead to success. He just kept trying to delay it out. It's not the exact same thing, but it makes me think of Moneyball. You know, that whole system where they stopped trying to play baseball to win. They instead just moved things. It became more of a numbers game where you would average out enough to win in the end, but you weren't
it's on technicalities.
Yeah. It's not the exact same thing, but it kind of reminded me of that, just in the way like Data was like, well, no, like I just did the other thing that he wouldn't expect, and effectively won because the other guy gave up and was mad that he couldn't figure it out.
He essentially forfeited.
Yeah. So Data doesn't see it. I will say that the one thing that stuck out to me about this bit at the end is that eventually, because like earlier on, before the first match, like Pulaski like leans in and whispers, and it's just like, you know, tear him down, I think, or burn him down.
That.
No,
maybe
tear him up, something like that. It was just some earth phrase like that, and he doesn't understand it. And at the end here, when he's insisting that he didn't win, and like, oh come on, Data, you did, right? So Data pauses and goes, okay, I tore him down, and everyone kind of cheers, right? Whatever the phrase was, you know, that we're misremembering. And there was a moment here where I almost felt like it was going to freeze frame as they were all mid cheer, because it felt like the end of a sitcom where everyone cheers and then the credit comes up while they're frozen. And
I can see it.
Obviously it's never done that before, but it felt like that ending. I was, because they all started cheering for him, it felt like, oh, this is where you freeze frame and the music comes in.
I guarantee you there's an edit of that somewhere on YouTube already.
It just, because that's the thing, it went straight to the shot of the ship where the credit came up anyway, so I'm like, just freeze frame it and just go straight to the credit and have like an upbeat version. Da 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 da. Da upbeat version. the sitcom 80s sitcom version of the music.
Again, I guarantee you already exists on YouTube. Someone's done this for you.
Probably, but it gave me a chuckle. So honestly, this was a fine episode. It wasn't like a standout episode, but I thought it was relatively solid in all the things that it was doing. I had fun.
I think it could have been better, and like, you know, a couple of pacing bits. You know, some side characters were not great. You know, a little bit more on the war game itself, but overall, pretty solid.
Yeah. I would have liked more of the game itself before the real threat came in. But I mean, ultimately, you know, it was an easy watch. I never felt like bored, or I never felt like I was suffering through some of the, you know, your code of honor level of like.
Oh, it was nowhere near.
Yeah, like. You know, this was not a cringy episode. It was a fairly solid, dependable
solid,
episode.
Like upper mid tier.
Yeah. So that is peak performance. So next episode is the last episode.
I want to see what they actually claim the description is.
It is worth mentioning that I believe, I'm not checking just now, but I've checked in the past, and just from my glance here what the number is, I believe this is the lowest average rating of any episode of the entire show on IMDb.
What did they give it?
Well, the average.
Yeah. What is it?
The average is 3.4.
I guess we're just going to have to suffer through this one.
I'm fairly certain the lowest in the original series was like a 5.1 or something.
Was it?
Yeah. I want to say.
Just going to see what Spock's brain was, and that'll tell you.
So it's called Shades of Grey, the next episode, and here's the description on IMDb. When Commander Riker comes down with a dangerous alien infection after an away mission, the only way to treat it may be through reliving his memories. And what a shock, his memories are going to be previous episodes.
It might be a quick conversation next episode, not gonna lie.
Yeah, I'm not sure how we're going to talk about this for any extended period of time next episode. But so that'll be the final episode of season 2. And then after that, we'll do our top 5 of the season, of course.
That might be the one benefit to this. It might give us a refresher on the season, and we can go, oh, those were the good ones, those were the bad ones.
Well, it depends what episode it takes clips from.
It's true. We'll find out.
I imagine it'll be tonally very inconsistent if it jumps to, like, you know, the Borg appearance, like next to some of the goofier clips that I might show.
Oh, I kind of hope it does.
But yeah, so Shades of Grey is the season finale. Is a clip show episode, so I'm not sure how much we're going to have to say next time. It may be very short, or it may be equally long but very silly, because we're probably just going to be tangenting for 20 minutes. But You can, of course, let us know what you thought of Peak Performance in the comments below. You can like and subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on the Twitters at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the show, you can rate the podcast on Apple Podcasts, give us 5 stars. More people will find us that way. You can support us financially over at patreon.com/mailfuzztv for as little as $1 per month. The $5 tier gets you these episodes, these reviews of Trek a week early, so maybe worth looking at for that. But go and have a look, and you get stuff at even the $1 tier, so go and have a look-see. But otherwise, that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. Oh, I should probably promote the Picard reviews, actually. I mean, it makes sense given what we're doing. So me and Tara are reviewing Picard, Star Trek Picard, which just started at the time of recording this past week. So we're going to be talking about that over the 10-episode season, so go and check out those. So the different end of Picard's story. You can go see our thoughts on that. But that is us, so thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching Star Trek, guys. And remember, when it comes to the ladies, Wesley Crusher is in complete control. I can't even say it with a straight face anymore. That's how ridiculous the bloody is.